Okay, so we're now going to learn the difference between HTML and CSS. And if you're not sure entirely about what either one are, we'll take a look at a practical example and how everything fits together. So when you visit a website, basically what happens is you have HTML that is sent from that website server to your browser. Well, not really. You request a page, the server says, yeah, here's the content, and then it's sent back. So in this example, I'm just accessing Wikipedia's main page. Now what's happening is, it's not sending me all of these styles. Technically, it's not sort of sending me a picture of a page, if that makes sense. All the hard work to render this page is going on in my browser. Now I'm using Google Chrome for my browser, and I will be throughout this series. But as a web developer, you're going to want to install as many browsers as your system can handle. The only one that I can't install on Mac or OS X is Internet Explorer. But if you're using Windows, you can install Firefox, you can install Safari, you can install Opera, and you can install pretty much any browser that's used popularly. And if you are using Windows, you'll have Internet Explorer installed already. So, back to the point of how this all works. My browser makes a request to Wikipedia's server, and obviously we're not going to go into the complexities of servers, but then it will give me back some HTML. But what you see is the combination of HTML and CSS together, which make up what you see here. And that's why we can do things like select elements, and we can save images if we want. Now, you probably already know about this, viewing the page source. If you don't, go ahead and hit view page source on just any website really, even just your favorite website or a website you visit regularly. I wouldn't recommend doing this on Google because there's a lot of JavaScript on the page and it does tend to confuse. So let's now take a look at this sort of markup that's been generated. Anything within script tags is JavaScript, so we can just ignore that for now. It's an entirely different technology altogether, and this focuses more on the functionality of a web page. It's more like a programming language rather than markup and styles. So if we scroll down, we can see things like the body of our page, and we'll be learning about how to do this all, and we'll be coding this up in a text editor soon. But you can see here things like these tags here, and A is basically an anchor, and this is a link. So anything between this is text that would be displayed to the user, and then this here is called an attribute, which is where this links off to. So in this case, it's a #p search, which is basically a location on a page here that will jump down to that search. Now, if we take a look down, we've got things like tables here. This does look quite messy. We're going to be writing very basic markup, and we're going to be structuring this really nicely within our text editor. We'll be using indenting, so it will look a little bit cleaner. When people tend to look at this, they just tend to see it as a lot of rubbish, and that's entirely fair enough. But this is probably most likely generated somehow by a server. The content delivery network of Wikipedia might be removing any additional indentation just to save on how much is delivered to the site. Probably not actually, because we've got some indentation here. But this is basically HTML. The majority of this is HTML. As I said, some of it is JavaScript if we go to the top. And then, we have all this markup up here, and we'll be learning about all of this as well. So that's the markup. So where are the styles then? Now you can see that if I try and find somewhere, I did see some a minute ago, we have some inline styles here. So this style element basically says apply these styles to this element that I'm working on. So you can do things like change the color of the text, the background color, you can change the font size, but we're not going to be doing this. This is a very, very old way of styling things up. You do not want to do this. These are called inline styles. Now, the important thing to note about the web and building a really good web page is to separate presentation and markup. So markup if, for example, we were to remove the style sheet of this page, in fact, we can do that now. If I just pull up my browser tools, and we'll be learning about these later. So if you're not sure about it, don't worry. I'm going to go down and I'm going to find the link to the style sheet of the page, and I'm going to remove that, and this one as well, and there should be another one as well. Let's find that. Let's do a quick search for CSS. We'll leave it at this. We'll leave it at that. I don't want to waste too much time. So you can see here that the page is still readable. These are probably the inline styles that we're seeing from here. I think I've removed all the style sheets. But the key thing here is to separate the markup from the presentation and the logic, which is the JavaScript. So we're going to be doing this in a really nice, clean way. So if, for example, now we go over to this page, how does this page know to apply these styles? Where are these styles stored, more importantly? Well, if we view the source in the head of the document here, this starts and ends somewhere down here, you'll find a link to a style sheet. So this will be a link, and the rel attribute will be style sheet, and we'll be doing this ourselves a bit later. So you can see when I click on this, it gives me all of the styles. Now this is a minified version of a style sheet, which basically means it removes all line breaks, spaces, anything like that, tabs. It will remove it all and just plonk it into one big mess. So this does look unreadable, but once you finish this series, you'll be able to look at this and pinpoint things and say, oh, I recognize how that works, etc., etc. So that's a minified version of a style sheet. This one is probably the same. The reason this happens is to save on the amount of data that's transferred over the network. So in this case, we're transferring less because we're removing spaces, which will save bytes. And for people with slower internet connections, it will be a massive help. So that's basically what HTML here and CSS is, which we've just looked at, although we've looked at a minified version. And you can do this on any website. So perhaps before you even carry on the rest of the series, go over to a website that you use regularly, view the page source, and have a look at the markup. Sort of familiarize yourself with some of the elements and the styles. And what we're going to be doing in the next part is going on to actually create our own HTML file, preview it in the browser. I've already got a tab open for that here. We're going to preview it in the browser, and we're going to start to build up from there. And then as you follow along the series, you can start building things up. By the end of it, we'll have built a portfolio website. So in the next video, let's look at creating our first HTML file.